for today? No public comment. We'll close public comment and go to our action items, which is approving the May 8th, 2024 meeting minutes. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, our information items. We've got two of those today. First is the draft fiscal year 2025 performance counts scorecard with Trish Collins. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you this morning. I believe that there is a copy of the draft fiscal year 25 scorecard in your packet, but I also have brought hard copies that, sometimes the old school on the paper with a pen can still be really helpful. So, I'm Trish Collins, the Director of Human Resources, and I'm here today to present this draft of an FY25 Performance Count Scorecard for the organization. I know you're all very familiar with the Performance Count Scorecard. We look at it every quarter here in this committee. But this scorecard is a little different. It builds on the work that we did together in our April workshop. And if you remember, during that workshop, I had a table where we did a SWOT exercise, where we discussed PSTA's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And one of the objectives of that exercise was to hear from the board the key priorities that you'd like us to focus on in the upcoming year. And we had a great discussion at that table. A lot of really, really good ideas. We heard things like interest in us focusing on tourist-oriented services. Airport connections were frequently mentioned, increased beach service, a lot of interest in improving our on-time performance, our service frequency, the experience that our riders have when they're riding the bus. Great interest in more partnerships and exploring other revenue-generating ideas like sponsored park and rides. Great interest in increasing our social media following and influencing public opinion to change public opinion for those who never ride to think that maybe sometimes riding transit would be a good alternative for some trips. And of course, making the agency resilient to budget fluctuations. So wonderful ideas that came out of those discussions. And when we looked at all of them, the several hundred comments that ended up on the SWOT chart, we saw that there were 4 most frequently mentioned priority areas that came from those discussions. And one was a focus on services and rider experience. 2 is a focus on community partnerships and relationships. 3 is the impact of our marketing and communications activities. And 4, not surprisingly, is our finances. So those are the 4 building blocks that we really took to look at next year's scorecard to make sure that those 4 things, rider experience, partnerships, marketing and communications, and finances, were all reflected in the priorities placed on this scorecard. So what I'd like to do today is walk through the scorecard draft with you and get your thoughts on whether this reflects your vision or what you'd like to see PSTA focus on for next year. This organization level scorecard is intended to be the outcomes of efforts. So for example, you won't see increasing airport connections on this, but that would be perhaps a project that's looked at on a scorecard for a department. What you would see is a metric of customer satisfaction. So the efforts to improve frequency and on-time performance and connectivity, we would want to see show up in a survey that we would do of our riders for how satisfied they are with our service. Okay? So This is an early stage. We have still quite a lot of work to do to finalize what these metrics would look like, but we wanted to bring you this early draft to get your comments and feedback so that we can head in the right direction. I'll start us with a navigation to get us oriented on the page. Starting at the very left-hand side column, there are the triple bottom line items from our Sustainable Strategic Plan. We've got healthy communities and workforce. We have a change from environmental sustainability to resiliency, which I'll talk a little bit more in a minute, and then economic vitality. So those are the three main bucket areas that all of the metrics fall into. The next column is metric code. That's just a unique identifier for each metric. It makes it a little easier to discuss them. And then third, that next column is a title, a short description of what the metric is. All of these metrics are designed to drive the agency's performance, drive the priorities, and demonstrate the resulting outcomes. Looking at the top section, healthy communities and workforce, we are recommending that we maintain the metrics that we currently have in place from FY24. We found that these were already very aligned with the priorities that came out of the workshop, with a focus on our overall performance, service, rider experience, employee experience, and community relationships, which of course is tied to our marketing, communications, and efforts to influence public opinion. So those metrics we're recommending to keep consistent from the prior year. The next section, resiliency, as I mentioned, was previously called environmental sustainability, but now we're recommending that we expand the concept of sustainability and what we're measuring here. The first metric, org 7, we're recommending that we maintain that metric from this current year. This is a metric that measures the environmental sustainability, the environmental impacts of PSTA services, and that is a measurement of our water use, our recycling, greenhouse gas emissions rolled up into one measurement, looking to see our impact and performance in that area. The next one, org 8, we're recommending a measurement called State of Good Repair. State of Good Repair is a federal asset management requirement, which you may have heard probably Henry come and speak to us about. This is a required assessment that all transit agencies must do to assess the condition of its assets, things like its buses, its facilities, and it's to measure that those things are being maintained in good condition, that they are resilient, that they are not becoming outdated or dilapidated. And so as a resiliency metric, we thought that was a good one to demonstrate that we are carrying forward the projects that keep our assets in a state of good repair. I think it's well named. The next one is fuel reduction. This is also a new proposed metric to measure the resiliency of our fleet, really through the impacts of our electric bus deployment. So as we're seeing more of those electric buses come online, it's leading to improved fuel efficiency and also reduced expenses in our fuel purchases, which is a financial sustainability metric. So we thought that that one would be a good metric to include in this resiliency section. And then finally, looking in our economic vitality section towards the middle to the bottom of the page, this section, of course, measures the responsible and effective use of our financial resources and our capital projects, as well as a new metric looking at community partnerships, which we'll talk about in a moment. The first metric here, org 10, we're recommending we maintain the current budget variance metric just to ensure that we're demonstrating we are staying within our budget. The second metric, org 11, is currently on our scorecard as passengers per revenue hour fixed route. And when we looked at that, we thought there are so many passengers that are utilizing PSTA services that our resources and efforts are going towards our paratransit services, our now van pool services, soon to be ferry services. And so the metric as we have it on the scorecard right now really doesn't capture an increase in any of those riders. So this is a proposed metric to expand our definition of ridership and really reflect the result of growing ridership in any of those areas. The next metric, Clearwater Transit Center project, you'll recognize that's currently on the scorecard now, but we would update that with next year's project milestones. The next metric, Org 13, is also a new proposal. We are recommending measuring the return on investment from the Sunrunner project. So this would track and measure the development value of the Sunrunner corridor as a way to demonstrate the impact that that project is and is continuing to have on the community. The next metric, Org 14, operating cost per revenue hour. That's a maintained metric from this current year that's demonstrating our efficient operations. And then this last metric is a newly proposed metric, Org 15, called fair and equivalent revenue. So this is a measure to the board's focus on partnerships and things like CPAS and UPass and maybe other revenue generating ideas. So this is a metric to demonstrate both fare box recovery and also the effectiveness and outcome of efforts to drive revenue in other ways. So we believe that this scorecard reflects those priorities that were really voiced the most in the workshop, which again were services and rider experience, community partnerships and relationships, marketing and communications, and finance. And I would love to have a discussion and turn it back over to the chair for any thoughts that you have about whether this matches your vision and the priorities that you see PSTA needing to focus on for the future year.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
My only comment, I've been over here searching and searching, wanting to make sure that we had received this prior to today, right?
It is a new addition this morning.
Okay, so I would love to give comment, I would love to give input, but I haven't been prepared.
Understand.
And you just said a whole lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you just said a whole lot with nothing to follow. So in order for me to give feedback, I would need to know what we're currently, that narrative
Yes, ma'am.
that you just gave for each block, because I don't want to be repetitive with something that we're already doing. So that's my first point. But if we were to go through and I just give an initial feedback to the headings, again, I may be repetitive. We may already be doing it, so I'll listen to the other committee members and see what they have.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job. I think that this scorecard is on the right track. I personally like the resiliency part of it. The fuel reduction that you mentioned, I'm really looking forward to seeing those statistics. I think that's wonderful. The state of good repair, I can't even explain how excited I am about that, because our like Al says, our diesel buses are going out of, they're gone. I mean, they're 20 years old, and they're going to be going away, and now we're going to be having our electric buses, and we're going to be able to see the fuel savings and that whole area there. Also the environmental metrics, I think that's great too. I just love the whole resiliency part of it. I think we're on the right track. The other point that I wanted to state that I marked here was the transit center. I love that matrix is on here, because we can follow that as we continue to grow, like we did with the Sunrunner when that was we were at the first ribbon cutting at the stadium, and then we followed that matrix, how it grew. I love that. And then of course the growth of the Sunrunner, I marked that off too. Very important to see how our revenue is growing and where that money's, if it's growing, how, after we do the pier bus stop, when we add that, seeing how that growth. But I think this is fantastic. I think we're on the right track. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Quick, water transfer,
Yes.
is that gonna be on here, so we can see, since that's a new venture that we're going into with the waterborne, you know?
I think that's
No.
coming up later in this meeting, right? When we
But I mean, on the
review
scorecard, so we can see, we put the Clearwater one on there,
Yeah.
so I don't know if that's gonna fall in somewhere.
I would say there are two places where that service, at least two places where that service would show up here, and one would be in our ridership, to see an increase in ridership, which captures people who are using that service. And then secondly, in fare and equivalent revenue, if there are, as we see revenues generated from that service, that would impact that metric as well.
So as they get in there, we'll be able to see that breakdown of different where things are coming from. That's the only thing I like to see, is I like to see, like, if that we added, something, what's it doing by itself? Like not grouped it into something, so we can kinda keep track of like, hey, that's a great idea, and oh my, look at this. We kinda do that with the Sunrunner, so I think as we add new programs, with technology now, we should be able to see that that this is picking up and this doing, not just group it into, everything,
Yeah.
because then we just have a lump number, we really don't know where we're doing well at, we just know we got an increase in ridership when we added it, but it could have been, we had a Rays game the same day, so, in my opinion, I just like to see breakdowns and things, because then I know where we're doing really well at, what people like, but it's my opinion, but I like the card. So I think we're getting into that, shifting to that detailed reports, before we couldn't get them, so.
Yeah, I mean,
Field software.
it's a good point. I know that on our monthly, performance metrics and things like that, that the finance committee and then the board gets monthly, like, for the first time this coming month, I think this is the first month, that now we've got the van pool. The van pool, which started on January 1st. Now we are highlighting that separately and showing the growth. It's growing, the number of people taking the van pool. And then I think we'll do the same thing with the ferry. Once
Because
that
didn't we
gets,
get a grant for it?
The
Aren't
ferry?
we for a grant for the ferry?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We got an FDOT grant for the ferry, and that starts. Well, we'll get the grant in probably like August from the FDOT, and then hope to launch that this fall for the Clearwater Ferry. But as Trish said, the scorecard is sort of the outcome. It's not necessarily that. It is not necessarily that I want to go on a diet. It's that I want to lose weight, and then a diet is an action that I might take. But it doesn't matter if I starve myself if I don't lose any weight. Whatever. So one thing that I think came up a lot, as Trish said in the workshop, is this idea of enhancing our tourist services, and maybe we could look at, I don't know, some way to reflect that on here, something sort of generally like that, which the ferries would certainly be a key part of the
Right.
tourist stuff that we do. So that's an interesting idea. Yeah.
Very good point, and yeah, I think it's important that we be able to see land and sea, if you will, and see that breakdown. I don't know if it warrants an additional line in here or additional category, but however this looks when we do review it, having that detail and being able to take a closer look at what the ridership looks like for each of, the different services, especially when you're talking about land or sea.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Did you have a?
I did.
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. So thank you for hearing all of that. I do have, again, I agree the draft looks good. The fixed route customer satisfaction. Nowhere in here are we asking for new riders. Let me know if we're asking new riders or those that expressed the desire for PSTA transit, for whatever reason, I would love to know what the new rider is thinking. In regards to, it's new, I just moved here, I just started riding, because I get that all the time. You know, some of the things that I got just in a meeting yesterday was that I love riding the Sunrunner when we do it, but if I wanna go anywhere else, I have to wait or walk. You know, and they're looking for other, you know, methods of transportation, so I love that one. The employee engagement, is that engagement also include satisfaction?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I wouldn't know that from looking at that heading. So employment engagement does include satisfaction. The fuel reduction one, is it gonna take into account our integration of our electric buses?
Yes, yeah, that
And we're
is,
gonna be able to see the difference, to know how we integrated interest, our electric buses, and this is what, is that gonna be a breakdown in that?
I will tell you that our
Debbie
maintenance
gives that.
department keeps incredible records on those things. So I'm sure that we could put together whatever, backup detail you'd like to see on that.
And not just us, I think the community would love to see what us as PSTA, how intentional we are. And this is what it has saved with us, you know, transitioning into electric buses. And we can show them the data.
Yeah.
You know, we can show them the stats, so that's the first thing. The ridership per hour, I'm not really sure what that breakdown is gonna look like, because we all know that different routes have different ridership. So we're gonna be able to know what routes those are and what time of the day, I mean, what does the breakdown look like?
Right. This on this particular report, it would just be a summary metric, but through the monthly ridership reports, I believe that's broken down by route, isn't it? The
Yeah.
Monthly ridership
Yeah.
reports, yeah.
Okay, so we wouldn't see this in this particular document, we would just have to go somewhere else to get the information. Okay, I think that's what stands out to me now, but yeah, I think the areas are good. I'm really, really, looking forward to the healthy community and workforce section, because really that is, to me, one of the main reasons for us being here, making sure our customers, our riders, and our employees, are addressed. Thank you so much. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you.
I got one other thing.
Yes.
So the ferry services that Patty's talking about is the Clearwater Dunedin ferry service? Is that, no? What service are we talking
Well,
about?
that one plus, they were looking at doing one with the Gateway, if I remember correctly, from Gateway, like there was one talking about doing the Gateway one, wasn't there one with that, in that
The one
grant?
from St. Pete to Tampa?
Oh, it was, yeah,
The
The
two-
Cross Bay?
the one, we got the
The Cross
grant
Bay,
for the
right?
Clearwater ferry. The Clearwater, just from down at Clearwater to the beach and up to Dunedin. That's what the grant that and we're hoping to get going by this fall. Then there is the Cross Bay ferry that goes from St. Pete to Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been approached by the partners who support that, Tampa, St. Pete, Hillsborough County, to bid that out, you know, and do a procurement for a new company to run that, because that contract is ending, and then oversee that new contract too. So that's what I know about it. I know Wick Blanton and I think the St. Pete Chamber is looking at some long-range planning for additional ferry activities. I think the St. Pete Chamber is trying to raise money for a ULI study. I don't know where that stands on waterborne transportation. More than those two I just mentioned, but this is the start. Yeah.
Okay. So those ferry services are coming.
Yeah.
Gotcha, thank you.
So, Madam Chair, if I could just make one final comment on this. This is just a draft. You have had no time to look at it, understanding. We tried, as Trish and I often talk about in our one-on-ones, I don't think this could possibly happen, but our dream as scorecard people would be that, you know, as you know, we have a very diverse PSTA board with lots of opinions, 15 different opinions, and perfection of this would be an outcome where you see how this adds up to 100, and then we score ourselves. that at the end of the fiscal year 25, all 15 PSTA board members would say, yep, I agree, that PSTA got a 89 or 94, and that somehow all board members would say, yeah, that seems right. That's the goal. I don't know if it's possible, but
Me neither.
and so when Trish went down to this list and our changes, we're trying to reflect things that we heard at the workshop to, you know, to as close as we possibly can to align what the collective PSTA board, you know, feels like is the definition of success. Yeah.
Well, to that comment, I know we won't ever satisfy everybody.
No.
So please, no recommendations are given out of love and comments are made out of concern. So, I agree with Brad on that. Yeah, we do have extensive diversity on the board, which I appreciate, right? I appreciate it. So, thank you for your presentation on this.
There does have to be 15 metrics, and there's 15 board members, so maybe each board member can have one.
One metric. There you go. I like that.
Do we get to
The
pick
one
one?
the one that I like, if I was gonna pick one, it's the one that I have a question about, which is 13, the Sun Runner Corridor Development Value Growth. How will that be measured? Is that going to be in terms of increase in property values, you know, within a quarter mile of the Sun Runner route?
Yeah, well, as Brad mentioned, this is still in development, but one thought we had is through using the data that's being provided through St. Pete Rising, which is studying the value of new development. And we had some questions as well when we began to look at that data to ask ourselves whether there's obviously the value of new development as it goes up, and then there's the change in that value over time as hopefully property values continue to rise. And then there's the potential value of properties that already existed that increase in value. So we have some work to do to figure out exactly how to measure that, but we wanted to bring that forth and see if that was a measure of PSTA's success that the board would agree is a reflection, a good metric for the success of that project.
Okay.
So we're gonna try to meet with Anthony Close, so St. Pete Rising, between now and next month or two, and try to talk to him about, because he has all that data. He's collecting all that data, like I think it is, like you described, Chair, half mile around the Sun Runner stations.
Probably.
And see if we can kind of crystallize it, that he can track one number
Yeah,
or some kind of metric.
well,
Uh,
it could be focused on, I don't know, he's got a good way of looking at things and giving some different options on how it could be measured.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, we're finally going to start the voting process on the TOD, Transit-Oriented Development
Right.
zoning, and a zoning overlay on the 22nd Street corridor area. So, and that, you know, goes through our process, then to Fort Pinellas, then the county. So I think that should be the final vote and have it put in, and effective date will be sometime in September, I think.
Yeah.
It's the first reading tomorrow, right?
First reading is
That's what I
tomorrow.
thought, okay.
And so it could be that with that zoning put into place, you could follow the areas of that zoning and see what it looks like today to get your baseline. And then start measuring, you know, development, new site plan submissions, you know, whatever, that are within that zoning area.
Right.
I don't know, just a couple of thoughts, but I'll be interested to see how that pans out
Yeah.
as you continue talking with Anthony and figure out what the exact measurement is, but I will be fascinated by that data when it comes out. Yes.
So now that we're talking about this, are we measuring anything like small business growth? Because, for example, when I took the Sunrunner to the Rays game, it dropped me off in front of Berg's, the place was packed. And everybody that got off that Sunrunner went into that restaurant, everyone, including myself. So, I mean, and a lot of the small businesses that are at these bus stops, these, the Sunrunner stops, I understand that their businesses have grown, this is what I'm hearing. Are we measuring that? So,
Yeah.
I know, they
And it
really
could be
have.
something, you could look at something bigger like Ferg's, you know, and then you could look at something that's maybe smaller and further west and not tied to a baseball game, like maybe the Chrome Factory.
Yeah.
You know, which is like, I think around 49th Street and Central or First Avenue North, I'm trying to picture it right now. But it's close to a stop. And it's, you know, this great bakery and sandwich place. And I do wonder, like, because everyone loves it, it's very popular, how many people are accessing it more now because they can hop on the Sunrunner from downtown and go out and enjoy a restaurant that's further west of Grand Central, west of Olive, where the development is focused right now. So how is that helping our economic development and economic vitality west of our core urban area? Now, maybe I'm getting a little bit too St. Pete centric with this, but it is a Sunrunner, so, you know, those are the kinds of things I'd be interested to know, is, you know,
That type of
how
growth.
the businesses.
Yeah, cause I know they're growing.
That is an incredible point, and we knew and certainly hoped with building the Sunrunner that would be one of the great outcomes of it. I think we'd have to look at how we could measure that. I don't know if, we would have to look at how to measure that, but that would be an
Yeah.
incredible thing to be able
You
to
could get with
reflect.
the cities, like the
Chamber.
business, like the permitting department to see, or see what
BTRs.
business, yes.
BTRs will give you any
Yes.
businesses that come in and
The
so forth.
BTR?
You don't have to, they're not members of the chamber, you wouldn't get them, but if they have to have a
Right.
BTR to be in business.
Yeah, the city's gonna have the best data on that, the most accurate stuff.
Now,
Great idea.
You know, it could be how many, I don't know, there's so many things you could.
you know, this,
Yeah.
this scorecard for the whole PSDA then drills down to then every department has their scorecard that is stuff they're gonna do to accomplish these things. And then it goes down to the individual scorecard, and I can't remember if it's on the project management scorecard or the just Abhishek's personal scorecard, but he had a metric about, making himself and his employees ride transit a certain number of times, like a month, and then he and I schedule our one-on-ones. We were scheduling them at different Sunrunner stops, like you're talking about the various coffee places along all the way to Yosemite Beach, and then now we've expanded it to other routes throughout the county. We're personally helping the economy of the little places around the Sunrunner.
Absolutely.
Me and Abhishek, but, and now Amanda and me too, with our one-on-ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. That's
I'll be
what's
on
right.
Route 4, yeah.
But maybe we can track it better.
For sure. Glad I brought it up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
This
Great
is
job.
wonderful.
Yeah, thank you for all
Excellent,
your
really
comments.
excited, thank you.
I appreciate it. We'll bring back a version that incorporates these comments, maybe in July, I think is the time.
To
Sounds
this
great.
committee or
This
to the
committee.
board? Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you all.
Thanks.
you.
All right, our next information item is the draft June board of agenda with our fearless leader, Brad Miller.
So in your packet, and in your iPad is the draft agenda for June 26th, which maybe Vice Chair Strachey might be leading, perhaps. And then you can see we have a pretty ambitious consent agenda right now. That's subject to the Finance Committee, mostly, reviewing these things. We are moving forward with the development of our new Sunrunner station at the pier, and I'm not sure if this is going to stay on the June agenda or slip to July, but Abhishek will have two contracts, one with HDR for the construction management of the new station, and then with the contractor to start construction. So that I'm hopeful that we'll have a new station at the pier, maybe by the end of 2024, it'll be done, which would be great. Then we have, of course, the Al Burns show, with buying uniforms for our maintenance employees, and then, amending that contract with Cintas, and then a renewal contract with our legal counsel. Commissioner Reed probably knows about this thing with the Transportation Disadvantaged Nonprofit Provider, because that, I think, went to the local coordinating board already.
Yeah.
Item 4F, every year we receive Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged funding, grant funding that supports our TD bus pass. Primarily, about 80% goes to the TD bus pass, but then there's about 20% of the funding goes to it used to be 4 nonprofits that provide Park, U-Park, Neighborly Care Network, which have money goes towards their vans, providing vans for Meals on Wheels or services for their clients. And those nonprofits are voted on by the local coordinating board, which we have the chair of here. For the very long time, the local coordinating board had us provide funding to the Lighthouse for the Blind, but they don't have any vans anymore, or they have not been using the funds. So there is a proposed change. I'm forgetting the name of the.
I just drew a blank. It is, homeless empowerment project.
Yeah,
Water.
HEP.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Amazing program.
There's a recommendation to help them with providing some of their vehicles and their services. So that's what that Transportation Disadvantaged Nonprofit Provider item is. Think now we have a bid now on the waste management, I hope. And then Giro is our scheduling software. The two big items on the agenda coming up this month are hopefully a contract for a new website, which is exciting, and then the first draft presentation of the budget, the fiscal year 25 budget, that Debbie and I are hard at work on now. Whether or not I have something exciting to say about the ferries, more than I've said already, I'm not sure. We are hopefully this week gonna be out to send the Clearwater Ferry RFP out on the street for bid, or for proposals for the Clearwater Ferry contract, and that will come back. And I think the deadline is early July, the current scheduled deadline, and then that will come to the August PSA Finance Committee and Board. And then, like I said, Hillsborough County, Tampa, and St. Pete approached PSDA about about doing a similar RFP for the Cross Bay Ferry from Tampa to St. Pete, and doing a competitive procurement for a new contractor for that, and then, once that contract was awarded, perhaps PSDA could manage that contract as well, because one advantage, of PSDA overseeing it is then we can submit the ridership and other data to the feds and generate, it's estimated about $1 million a year, based on the ferry operations. That would come back to the region. That would just be part of the capital funding. We would have to, the idea would be that there would be, if the ferry had some capital needs, like I know they do in St. Petersburg to build a new pier for the ferry, or any other capital needs that the ferry would need, that would be come off the top of the $1 million. But then if there was additional money left over, then that would just flow down to the capital programs of, PSDA buses or other needs, and Hart's capital needs as well. So,
There's a, if I could add to that.
what's it?
There is a study that we've funded already to kind of get going on ferry docks at the pier.
Yeah,
And we're looking at doing two, at least two.
oh,
I'd love three, but it's over
Oh,
two.
nice.
So that we could use one for Cross Bay Ferry and then the other one for, educational vessels like the Tall Ship Links and things that, Tampa Bay Watch has a Discovery Center right on the pier, and they've got an eco vessel. So there's a great, flexible use for the second one. And Cross Bay Ferry, eventually we want that operating year round, so they would sort of have that one. Maybe you haven't gotten this far into it, but, there is, grant money for ferry docks and things like that when it comes to waterborne transportation through, the feds.
yeah,
So it sounds like if PSTA decides to move forward, taking in the Cross Bay Ferry, which I think would make a lot of sense, it sounds like there's an opportunity for a really strong partnership with St. Pete as it relates to the docks. But I do think it says a lot about PSTA and about you that PSTA has been approached. If you weren't
Yeah.
doing a great job, they wouldn't be asking you to take over and do a better job than what has been done. So I want to say that publicly, and I want to make sure you hear it.
yeah, well, thank
That
you.
it just says a lot about you and your team that we can handle this, and I think it's a real opportunity for the transit agency to kind of go beyond the bus like you are with the Clearwater Ferry and everything, and show, that multimodal transit, the different ways of getting around from point A to point B still mean public transportation.
Yeah.
But it's really just taking advantage of our unique geography and the resources that we have to really take that to the next level. So I feel another APTA award is in your future. But for now, I just want to thank you and give you some kudos for being the kind of leader and running the kind of organization that makes people want you to participate and help out.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah.
Madam Chair, can I second that?
Sure.
Oh, good, okay.
Can I third that?
Yes.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Hopefully this will all work out. Yeah, there's a lot of details will be worked out on both the services. Like you said, there's a lot of coordination with St. Petersburg about the pier, the docks
Yes.
that are needed there. I don't know exactly. There probably are similar capital things in Tampa for their dock. I mean, I know.
Yeah, they've had to move theirs around a bit too.
They have, yeah. And then in Clearwater, the city of Clearwater is doing capital improvements, kind of redoing the beach marina, like right now. And for a period of time, it's gonna be maybe part of it's gonna be either completely closed down or partially closed down. So, one thing that might work in that way is that the Clearwater Ferry could be, while it's under construction, replaced by the Jolly Trolley. Oh, by the way, I know the person who, we oversee that too, so we can coordinate so that, during the construction, we can still get people over to the beach there. But yeah,
Okay.
great work by lots of PSCA folks. Al Burns is doing a great job with his procurement, and keeps walking around the office talking about his future boat. That he's going to be riding from his house over here. But thank you.
I'll have to get him a little captain's hat.
No,
And good at it, Gavin. And in the Gateway Center is becoming so big, maybe there's a way too to harness some of the developers or some of the people that are coming in there to be able to make that a ferry from there, that you can jump down. If you're going from
Yeah,
Clearwater,
that's a
you
good
can
idea.
jump down and you can go directly across, because they just have that huge development right there at the Gandy boat ramp. And there's a good stop there, they're making there's a big lot there, and they just made it's a huge development.
going in there.
Right, yeah, if you go across Gandy, where did that come from? But there was some talk about the Gateway Center being a stop also, for a ferry across, because it'll run right alongside that bridge right there, so you have some great park and rides, you have some great destination locations and stuff.
Yeah, I
Because you
know.
gotta remember, if you have lousy weather, you gotta be able to have a bus to get them back over somewhere.
Right.
Because if the ferry, that was part of the problem before, was if the ferry, a storm came up, you're stuck on wherever side you went to, so.
I know that the Ford Pinellas did a gateway master plan maybe 5 years ago that did have a waterborne component to gateway, and then I think I'm not sure if it's Fort Pinellas or St. Petersburg is kicking off a new transportation study.
Fort
for-
Pinellas did it last year, again, they put it on there, they had the ferry on there from Tampa, right in the Gateway Center.
Fort Pinellas.
Fort Pinellas did, it was on our plan.
Yeah. Oh, and I just heard that there's a new effort that is underway.
Because they had a picture of the old ferry on the presentation.
Oh.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and that was part of the reasons that people stated that they couldn't keep going, was that when there was lousy weather, they were stuck. So, but the Gateway Center was in that presentation.
And I'm forgetting. Do you know the St. Petersburg Council District that Councilwoman Gabbard is?
That area.
I think the new study is called that. Is it two? The District 2 study. I think it just started. That's why I think it's called that. Maybe St. Petersburg is doing it, or Fort Pinellas. Some kind of transportation update to the Gateway Master Plan. We'll see. I just wanted to follow up one final thing. We are working on, based on the board discussion at the last meeting about the developing a standardized partnership score sheet to track our new policy.
Oh, yeah.
It's in the works.
Excellent.
Okay,
Yeah, you'll see that.
all right,
Maybe I can try to bring that to the planning committee this month,
good.
Okay.
just to see that. Yeah.
And then off the agenda, it looks like the agenda is that covered. Is tonight when you have the community meeting for the,
Oh, on the
is it
community bus.
community bus plan meeting?
Yeah.
Is that tonight virtually?
Darden, hey Darden.
Yes.
I think it's not, is it tonight? I thought it was maybe,
Let me look it up, sorry.
I think it might be tomorrow.
There is
Other
a
things.
focus group meeting today at 2 p.m., but there's a bigger meeting. Sorry, I'm trying to read this.
I've seen it
There's
on
a
social media.
request to
June
join a
6th.
Zoom meeting.
Oh, tomorrow, okay.
Yeah. Virtual Community Blast Plans meeting tomorrow, 6 to 7:30.
Yeah.
Do you have is there, I'm sorry, I'm sure I could just go in and try it myself. I'm not able to attend. Is it going to be recorded?
I can find out.
If so,
It would be very easy to accommodate that.
Yeah. If it's a Zoom, then that's pretty easy.
The goal is that.
I'll miss it, so I'd love to be able to watch it and hear what that feedback is, but at the very least, I'd love to hear an update, like, or a briefing on it, how it went.
Mm-hmm.
And then, my other question, and if someone needs to just get back with me later, I was wondering if participating, if you need to go in and sign up, if there's a registration for it, even though it's a Zoom, and then you get sent the link, or if it's just out there. Because a lot of people these days are actually doing, registration for the meeting just to, deter really like Zoom bombers and stuff,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
It will be conducted webinar style.
Oh, okay,
So they can't speak unless they're
Perfect.
acknowledged.
Yeah. but do you have a registration so you have an idea of like who all's gonna be logging in and?
I don't have that at my fingertips right now, but I'm
Okay.
emailing Devin right now. He's our staff lead on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if there was some kind of a sign, I'd just be interested to know how many people sign up or end up participating. It just
We'll
sounds
have
like a
that,
great
we'll have
opportunity.
those numbers on all of it, but especially that one, but we'll have a report on how all of our, community bus plan focus groups.
Yeah,
have gone.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear the results of all of that outreach, so.
Yeah, I mean, they've been out and about in the community for a while. This is sort of.
Yeah,
It's my understanding this is maybe one of the last, methods that we're trying for the community input to
Mhm.
this phase, and then, hopefully the consultant will come back later this month with recommendations based on the feedback. They've gotten from all the different methods. We'll see how this goes. This virtual public input.
excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I can't wait to hear how everything's been going with that. All right, did you have anything else for us today, Brad?
I don't think I do.
Did any other committee members have anything else? Yes, Commissioner Fig Sanders.
Thank you. I stepped out. The consent agenda. The backup for the Sunrunner construction and the station construction, when do you anticipate us getting that backup? Because I may pull that from consent.
Yeah, as I mentioned, maybe when you're out, I'm not sure if that's gonna be this month or, be pushed to July, but the, construction management task order is with, HDR Engineering, and then it's likely that the construction contract amendment will be with the company that built the original Sunrunner, Nelson Construction. And now, if we'll get you the write-ups, they're available now, but,
Right.
I talked to Abhishek and see if he's,
It's too early for write-ups.
So that's why I asked, when is it gonna be?
well, we got, I got a note, I talked to him, I haven't talked to him, but that he sent a note yesterday to Rachel saying that maybe this would have to go to the July Finance Committee, so then it wouldn't be available until probably a month from now.
Okay, so we can look forward to this being removed from consent?
Probably, I
Okay.
think.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
All right, anything else? All right, Thanks, everyone, we're adjourned.
Great meeting,
Yay.
great teamwork.
Thank you.
I've had one meeting and.
I like the scorecard, it's great.